How's everybody doing tonight? Having a little problem today. Let's see if we can get it rectified. That's not cool at all. How's everybody doing tonight? I am struggle streaming. I think I should have rebooted, but we're gonna make it work today. We're gonna make it work. Mm. We're gonna make this work. Can I do that? Yeah, I should have rebooted, but we are where we are. That sucks. How you doing, Ty? Thanks for joining me. I appreciate the one. Having a little tech computer problems, but we're gonna flow. Put any questions or tech questions or cybersecurity questions in the chat. We're gonna get started. Computer problems and all. So we're going to talk a little bit more about risk. That's what we're going to talk about. You saw the thumbnails for contracts, RFPs, and RFI. What's up, Jim Mark? Glad you can join me. So let's get started dealing with the internals. I feel you. I feel you. Hopefully we can get this slideshow operational. See what we can do. So you see it right there, risk. Everybody know I'm a NIST 800-53 guy, specifically R5. But let's get rolling. See, hopefully this will work. There's the 20 security families of NIST 800-53. Revision 5, you see it right there. RA, right-hand column, 5 up from the bottom. That's the one we're going to focus on today. And we actually been talking about risk. Shout out to Steph. We were looking at some software with her in Discord, and we're gonna pick out a couple issues. She was doing a security review, risk review of some software, so we just kind of did it together in Discord. So I just kind of ran through it real quick. So there we are. Once again, the 20 security families. We're gonna look at the RA. It's in alphabetical order right there. Risk assessment. This is the subfamilies and enhancements of that security family. You see it at the top. Risk assessment, policies, and procedures. We're not going through all of these tonight. I think I picked out R1, R2, R3, and 7, the response, right? You do a risk assessment. We're going to talk about this in RFP or RFI, request for proposal, request for information. Either you're giving a proposal or you're responding to the proposal, right? So you're assessing it or you're doing a response to it, right? So there's two sides to that. So that's kind of what we're going to kind of focus on today. And I once again pulled out a couple of things. And we're actually going to look at a RFP I was actually responsible for, very small. I did the grading of it for vendors responding to it. So we're going to actually look at that. You can tell it. I had some responsibility for it because when you see Stiggs, NIST, and Irish Puff 1075, of course, those are all my favorite. But once again, I worked with a super senior guy. I'm going to interview him on our channel. And Alita Jeffrey, she was the CIO for the state of Indiana. So she was definitely a big DOD person. That's where I met both of those at. But once again, we'll get to that RFP. So what does that look like in real life? Let's see, I'm having a few minor, okay, there we go. A few minor difficulties seem to be working their way out. So let's see what we got. I always said PBR, where my mind, it's all good. I just received an email from CompTIA informing me I've been approved to take the. That's cool. What is that? Oh, okay, SEC AI. It kind of rolled together. Plus, well, you think it's a good test or a good certification for people to take? Chime in on that, Jim. Let's keep rolling. Let me hit that. Categorization. That's my number one thing is. All right, two, categorize the system, information and process, store and transmits. Document the security categorization results in your security plan. That's one thing we need to dig down into is the security plan. That's a big So C, verify the authorizing official. Authorizing official designated representative reviews and approves the security categorization of the decision. So usually when I work for it, that's usually going to be the CISO and the business owner together. All right. So they're going to review the categories. And a lot of times it's pretty easy because you're reporting to the IRS, HIPAA and High Trust, which is Health and Hospital, CGIS, which is the FBI. All right. So a lot of times that categorization is because they give you certain data and they saying these are the security levels or the categorization you need to secure our data in. So that's what you see a lot. So they'll help you categorize it. The categorization you struggle with is what scope and where is that data going through. When the IRS gives you data, which most people know I do a lot of IRS work, the IRS says this is our data. So your categorization is IRS Pub 1075, right? Which is NIST 800-53 moderate. That's usually what it is, right? So I'm checking on my Facebook. I'm going live on Facebook. I think I struggle with Facebook. I very rarely go live to Facebook. I'm trying to see if it's kicking in. Oh, I see me. See me. Check me out. I'm gonna go give me a like on Facebook. I very rarely go live on Facebook. I don't know why I'm enamored with that. That's making me laugh. So just checking it out over there. That's so funny to me. Let's keep going. You know how we doing it. Put any questions or things in the chat. So once again, categorization. Usually I work with federal clients. The Fed is giving you the data, so they already categorizing what you get. Once again, HIPAA and High Trust, Health and Hospital. People know I do IRS Pub 1075. So that's IRS, NIST 800-53 moderate. CGIS, which is FBI data. Usually FBI is giving state police intel, fingerprints, warrants, international warrants, federal warrants, right? So that's the Fed giving it to the state. The state has to secure that data at a certain level, right? And I'm trying to forget what SSI, Social Security, have specific security requirements is leaving. FERPA is education, right? So there's a ton of compliances. When you work at a large state agency, you're sharing data between agencies. So that's why DORA gives data to education, which is FERPA, state police, which is CGIS. So everybody's trying to make sure they're at the same security level, or their security level has to come up so you can give them data and transfer it. So that's kind of where all that federal knowledge I get once again working with states and trading data with the feds. And the Fed says you got to secure it at a certain level. So let's keep rolling. See, that was categorization. Conduct a risk assessment, including identifying threats and vulnerabilities in the system, determining the likelihood and magnitude of harm from unauthorized access, determining the third one, determining the likelihood and impact of the adverse effect of your PII, personal information with that, integrate risk assessment results and risk management decisions from the organization and mission or business process perspectives with the system level assessment. So what does that mean, right? When you want to integrate, so at least annually, what is that risk assessment, right? Are you doing vulnerability scan, compliance scans, And we're going to talk about that software coming in your agency. Are you reviewing it? Who's signing off on that risk? Is that risk going to a board to talk about before you even onboard that particular software? Right. So you have legacy risk, meaning the software and systems you have currently, then the stuff you're bringing in. Right. So you got to start somewhere. So at least with the new software, let's start doing risk assessments on it. Is it using the right encryption? Does it have the correct support? Are you in the cloud? All right. What security components are you using in your tenant? Right. So all that kind of goes through risk. And we're going to touch on a little more of that. Document the risk results in the system security plan and risk assessment plan. Review the risk assessments. We talked about that at least annually. Disseminate the risk assessment results to agency-defined personnel. AIO, system owner, system administration, probably all of those to me. Right. Update the risk risk assessment at least every 3 years. Right. So I think that actually changed to every year. Well, that's NIST, depending on the federal agency. Like the IRS, they want you to do their risk assessment annually. I think CMMC's annually. And I think FSMA and FedRAMP is annual. So once again, it depends on the agency. When you looked in this, it says agency defined. So each one of those federal agencies will have a different requirements for when that should happen. So my man Jim said about the AI. 4 domains: basic AI, securing AI assisted security, and AI. Oh, that's cool. I might look at that, the AI GRC. So Jim put it in the chat so I can check on that. I might check on that later myself. I got to get a little better with AI. Critical analysis. And we're going to look at what does that look like. It's a key tenet of supply chain risk management. Informs the prioritization of protection activities, identification of critical system component and function, considering applicable laws, executive order, regulations, directives, policies, and procedures. So once again, what does that look like? So now we're going to dig into like what is an RFP, right? Then once again, we're going to look at a real RFP. Come on, how's that not letting me do that? So again, I'm having, oh, there it is. I'm a little slow. So my computer's acting up a little bit. We're going to make it work. Once again, put any questions or tech or cybersecurity in the box. We'll go over it. And after this, I'm going to have to reboot my computer, but that's a PBO problem. So what is an RFP? Solicit detailed written proposals to solve a defined need. So you compare approach, qualifications, total cost side by side. Use an RFP when you have requirements from what vendor's ideal solution, not just a commodity price. Here's some other things. RFI, explore market and gathering ideas. RFI is request for information. You don't really know if you can bid it or what type of solutions out there. So you put an RFI out and people will say, we can bid on it. This is kind of our solution at a high level. I usually don't want to give too many details because sometimes you can see their competitors, what they actually would bid on a certain RFP or RFI. So request for information. Once again, gathering ideas, exploring the market. I've only seen probably 2 of those that I work with where they did an RFI. RFQ, request for fixed pricing for a well specified item or service. I've never seen RFQ. RFT, IT, formerly a sealed bid, often in public sectors with strict specs. I very rarely see fixed bids. You a sealed bid or fixed bids. You'll see it coming up. It's called BAFO. They usually do a best and final offer, and we'll talk about that. So let's keep going. So while we're talking about RFPs as a risk assessment and as a GRC, if you putting out RFP for people to work or you're responding to RFPs, right? There's a GRC component, and we're going to look at that. What compliance is it? Is it NIST? Is it CMC? Is it HIPAA? Is it high trust? How do we make sure that their bid or their software comes in compliance with that specific federal agency? Then when we bid on it, making sure we can do that as a solution architect or as a vendor, can we bid on that type of work? And I've been on both sides where I put RFPs out. We're going to talk about how do you grade RFPs, grading rubrics, going through people's solution to see if it's viable for that particular RFP. Sometimes, once again, it's not all about money. It's can they actually do it? Typical in the process, plan and approve. Usually you got goal, budget, stakeholder, evaluation teams. I've been on evaluation teams. It's interesting. Draft RFP, scope requirements, T's and C's or terms and conditions, response format and scoring, release, post to a portal, invite list, include Q&A schedule, vendor Q&A and addendum, clarify requirements, publish answers to all, submit and open, validate compliance on time and complete, evaluate individual scoring, consensus and shortlist, demos and proof of concept, BAFO negotiation. BAFO is best and final offer. This is our, this is what we need. This is our statement of work. This is our requirement. What's your best and final offer? Sometimes you can negotiate on there. Sometimes they try to do wiggle room where we bid on this base thing, but if we add features, of course, you can charge us. Award and debrief, notify our winner and give feedbacks to others. Contracting and kickoff, when you're going to award a contract and when do you have a kickoff meeting so they can start. Like a lot of times, not a lot of times, GRC's in the mix in here. Kind of a lot because you're there with the compliances, things you can need to complete. You working with the difficult technical teams. You might even do, I've been in an oral demonstration, right, where you ask them questions to see if they can answer it. Try to stop them, see if they BSing you. So from a GRC perspective, you're in those RFP meetings with the vendors, with the CEOs, because depending on the dollar amount, a lot of times CEOs show up and their whole executive suite, especially if they're a small company. It gets interesting. I like the small guys, so. Oh, shout out to R Squared Prime for joining us. Get your cloud front certified of being a 3PA certified. Expensive. The second requires you to work for. No, no, it is correct. I worked for a 3PL for a real short time. That's just a different animal. I might work for it. I might in the future. I'm kind of happy where I'm currently at. So, but it's interesting. So let's keep going. What is included in RFP? Introduction and background. The requirements we talk about, that's where GRC is at. Functioning, technical, clear, must, should, and nice to have. Security and compliance. SOC 2, ISO 27001. My favorite one, NIST 800-53 mapping. Data redundancy, blah, blah. Privacy. Service level agreement, uptime, RTO, return to operations. RPO, return to point, right? That's how many hours you can use in a database. Support hours, right? So you listening to make sure you have clear requirements from the vendor and you, right? Deliverables and milestones. I like to put that under SOW, statement of work. Assumptions and constraints, integration, data, and environment. So you want to have all that list out. Like if you got an older system, you upgrade. What's the integration point? Are you reaching out to other systems? What's getting data conversion? What type of environments you're going to be in? Unix, Linux. A lot of times you're in somebody's cloud. Proposal instructions, format length, mandatory pricing. Evaluation and scoring, criteria weights, pass and fail grades. So it's weird. Cybersecurity will usually get a passing grade, success or failure, but the overall percentage is usually like 5%. So that means if they can meet security, they in there, right? So you get the rest of the 95% of the points. So it's usually a go or no go. Commercial terms, price structure, times and material, fixed versus subscription, renewable, price caps. I see that a lot now. You get your software, you can't go up more than 3% in each year, right? Because some people were getting in the second year, they were bumping the price up 15%, right? So what are those price caps? So I see that a little more. And we talked a little bit about this in the Discord. Limitation of liabilities, cap, super cap, and uncap and carve out. I was talking about that. Oh, shoot, I want to say on study GRCs. So long story short, that is, if they get you hacked, is it? And I got a slide coming up talking about that. Is it capped, meaning you can only get fees? Is it super capped, meaning okay, you get 5 times your fees? Or is it uncapped, meaning whatever it costs us, we suing you for? Because if you get hacked, it's probably gonna cost you at least $1 million, right? Finding a hack, getting your people. Most people have a third party that actually does that type of work. So your downtime, so all that together is gonna easily be $1 million. So what can you sue the company for that got you hacked, aka that vendor? Legal administration, conflict of interest, and we'll look at a few of those. I got a couple of those coming up in some slides. Reference, insurance, compliance, and its attestations, pendencies, use case scripts for demos, integration specs. Once again, from a risk assessment, those are the things that needs to be in your RFPs, request for proposals, RFIs, request for information, so that you can be successful when you award people work, or if you're bidding on work, right? It's two sides of that. And once again, GRCs on both sides of those. The security and compliance, we talked about this, the quick checklist, data classification, residency, blah, blah, which is I do federal work, so it has to be in the United States, or CONUS, continental United States, which is Puerto Rico's in there, and the things that the United States own. Encryption at rest and in transit, which is KMS, key managed system / services. Identity access, single sign-on, MFA, multi-factor authentication, rollback access, right? RBC, logging, audit evidence, SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 2701, vendor's insight if buying from AWS. We're going to look at that in the upcoming video. Privacy term, data processing agreement, sub-processors, GDPR, CCPA. Those are privacy terms. That's super prevalent now. Every contract I usually look at now, or in the past, it had the sub-processors, which means the GDPR and the CCPA Privacy Act, but they're actually putting that in those contracts. Data retention, return, and erasure. We talked about uptime SLA, service level agreements, support SLA, credits and reporting, contract levers, liability cap, super cap for data and IP, indemnities, right? Those are a lot of legal terms. So your legal set, once again, GRC got to be in there. Some pitfalls from RFPs, right? Testable requirements and demo scripts, price only scoring, one-off Q&A replies, always publish addendum to our vendors. Yep, you could get sued if you don't. No comparability required a standing pricing sheet. A lot of times so you compare apples to apples. Skipping security and compliance artifacts until after selection. Yeah, I do that before. We used to kind of wait, but a lot of times when people were getting to the second and third level of the RFP or RFI for selection, they could nowhere get close to the security we needed. So we kind of put the security requirements up first so they can self take their self out, right? Self delete their self out of the RFP, right? So they be like, oh, we can't do this level of security, aka this is Stiggs, aka the full IRS Pub 1075. That's a heavy security lift. So, well, I like to show the security requirements up front, and then a lot of vendors will just drop out the bat. I don't know if I should have put that in red. Let's see. Got any questions? So we were in the Discord and we were looking over some vendor trust center information, which basically is what they will reply to RFP. There's some things in their documentation I don't like, and I see this out there more and more, so I wanted to bring it up. A lot of people say these are our policies and procedures online, but then they put this statement inside their terms and conditions. Notification of changes your access to and use of the site and services is strictly conditioned upon your agreement with and consent of the terms and conditions of this privacy policy, as it may be amended and or updated from time to time at our sole discretion, right? So they can change it anytime. So if you can change it anytime, what am I reviewing, right? So that's always kind of one of my biggest pet peeve I see with trust centers and people kind of digging into it. So if I see that in the event any material modifications by use of the way or purpose we process your personal information, we will notify you by email sent to the email specified in your account or by means of notice on this site prior to the change becoming effective. Your continued use of site and service will indicate your acknowledgement, right? So if you use it, even if they change it, you know what you kind of agreed upon, right? We encourage you to periodically review this page for the latest information on your privacy practice. So my mitigated control, you can kind of see it there. Most companies now are ISO or SOC certified per this assessment. So if they have a SOC 2 Type 2 or ISO certified, that says they got to have policies and procedures at a certain level, right? So even if they change this, if their policies and procedures are modified too much, they will lose their SOC 2 Type 2. They will lose their ISO 2701. So when I see stuff like this, if they have a SOC 2 Type 2 or a ISO certification, I just need to make sure they will maintain that annually. And so if you change it here, if you change it enough, you once again invalidate your ISO or your SOC 2 Type 2. So that's kind of mitigation that I'll look for. Now, if they don't have a SOC 2 Type 2 or ISO certification, right, then I got to think, because that means they can really change any of their policies and procedures anytime, right? And it could invalidate their NIST or their FSMA or whatever self-certification they have. ISO and SOC 2 certified means a third party did it, right? So that's kind of what I look for mitigating controls when I see this stuff inside trust centers that I don't really like very much. But once again, I dropped the link if anybody want to come up, or if you have any questions or tech or cybersecurity, drop them in the box. Somebody asked me a question about RFP, so you know me, I got to do a quick video. So you know me, I throw a video together. So let's keep rolling. Like I said, just a few things I wanted to touch upon. Once again, I dropped the link if anybody wants to come up. This was something else that was in a trust center. Which I hate. Security, we take reasonable steps to protect your personal information provided via the site services from loss, misuse, and unauthorized access, disclosure, alterations, or discussions. For example, accessing your personal information on the services are password protected. It's your responsibility to protect it. But if you see it there in bold, we make no representation of warranties as the effectiveness of our software and assume no liability for security breach or any failure in the security of your computer equipment, your internet service, right? So, but my thing, if they get you breached or hacked, they have no responsibilities or no warranties, meaning they're not going to pay you a dime, right? We just looked at the another statement too, meaning they're not going to pay you, right? So we were talking about, well, most companies have cyber insurance, but if somebody causes a wreck or causes you to get hacked, you shouldn't have to use your insurance, right? So if you see there mitigating control, cyber insurance, and hopefully for your side, you have the proper encryption and they have the proper encryption. So if they get you hacked and they're using the proper encryption keys, KMS, database encryption, um, advanced encryption from Oracle or SQL Server, if somebody took the data, they couldn't decrypt it, right? Then once again, that would not be a breach. But if they take no responsibilities or have warranties, what's your mitigating control? One's is cyber insurance, so you can pay it, and the other is you have the proper encryption and they have the proper encryption. They have the proper password. We were talking about multi-factored MFA, single sign-on, and those type of authorizations, right? Authentication and authorization effects that will help you hopefully not get breached. But once again, if they have no warranties or representation of warranties and really not going to pay for anything that gets you hacked, you just need to understand the risk as a company, right? That's usually that's a business risk, right? So we talk about risk. So if they get you hacked, they're not going to pay for it. You know, you can't sue them, right? So are you willing to take that risk for this particular service? And once again, that's a business risk, right? We talk about GRC, we talk about risk a lot. So that's kind of stuff when you read it, you see that right there in bold. We make no representation of warranties as the effectiveness of our software and assume no liability for security breaches. Then why am I using your software? So PBO and Gold and Grumpy, okay. You know, you're not gonna warranty it. It's different if I cause it, right? If one of my vendors click on something and get some malware, right? That's my fault, right? But if it's something you cause, somebody had a zero click on your side, you didn't have zero trust, you didn't have, you wasn't using the MITRE thing. Russia was in your network, but you wasn't logging it, so you didn't see it, right? So once again, though, that's big to me. We make no representation of warranty as to the effectiveness of our software and assume no liability for a security breach or any failures in the security of your computer equipment. Right now, it's the security of your computer equipment, not my computer equipment. I'm saving my data with you, right? And half the time it's in the cloud and you're responsible for configuring the cloud with the shared responsibility. Right. And once again, we dig down a little later in that and what does that really mean from a third-party risk assessment. I think that's all I had. Let's see. I dropped the link if anybody want to come up. There's one going back through, but oh no, I know what I want to do. I got one more thing. PBO tripping. He running out of energy today. So we talked about looking at an RFP that I was involved in. I think I can say that now. It's pretty old. It's pretty old. So let's get to it. Please struggle stream. Why can't I get to that? Let's see what's coming up. How you doing today, Jim? Can you hear me, Jim? Jim, can you hear me? Let me. I don't think Jim can hear me. Oh, that's me. That's me. Can you hear me, Jim? Jim, can you hear me? Let me put. Oh man, let's see. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Well, while Jim works on his audio, I keep hearing flickering on. Jim, I can't hear you. So I'm gonna share this quick RFP while Jim gets his gets his. Why was I doing that? Let's see. I'm working on it. Let's see. Why can't I share that? Oh. Okay, this is unable to share. Okay, we're working on a few things. Once again, put anything in the put any chats in there. Read the if I can get to it, Ty. I'm trying. I don't know if I got an end user I'll find an end user license one. Why can't it let me? I'm just gonna put anything in there. Why can't I have to share? Struggle streaming as always. I think I'm gonna do that. That might not work. Yeah, that wasn't good. As soon as I did that, I was like, that ain't gonna work. So let me see. My computer is super slow. Let's see, that's it right there. Okay, there it is. So if you look, that's the State of Indiana's RFP in 2017. So let's look at a few things. Let's see. Make that a little bigger. So this was an RFP done by the state. And here we put our technical and service level agreements, attachments. My favorite one right there, FISMA, Information Rating Service, Moderate Impact. There it is, the NIST 800-53, current version, which was R4 back then. And you know if it's me, if we got the disastigs in action, right? DOR, which is Department of Revenue, utilized the United States Defense Information Security Agency DISA-specific technical implementation guide. The STIGs are a practical way to evaluate compliance with the NIST security controls. STIGs are defined in specific technology and application design. So we just kind of walked through what the STIGs were. So that I had great enjoyment with putting those on there. Jim, let me know if you can hear me. So once again, it was an RFP. So the part about it, since it's our RFP, we had to grade them, right? When we got the responses back. How do you go about grading? We talked about categorization. Oh, I had great enjoyment with putting those on there. Man, you there? You got some background in there.
Yes, I am here.
How are you doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm doing all right. You want to chime on anything? We were just talking about RFPs at a high level, bidding and grading them, and talking about.
What's the question?
Say that again.
So what's the question?
I don't have one. I was just asking if you want to chime in because I know you do risk assessments at your level. So I didn't know if you wanted to, I guess,
Yeah.
partake some ISO information into the into the presentation.
Yeah. Um, Honestly, I think in terms of third party, it's too broad now. Um, a lot of people are struggling with third party, um, especially with the phases. I think like what should we do in phase one and then phase two, phase three. It's becoming a little bit tedious, and companies are struggling. Mm.
No, I agree with that. That's why I was trying to simplify it. But no, you correct. And now I think everything is an API, a cloud call. So everything is a third party call, right? Because everybody's utilizing
Yeah,
cloud resources. So now you got resources calling other resources. And I think that becomes super interesting.
but I'll tell you something very interesting is that most GRC people who haven't done third party properly, I think a lot of us are stuck. So let's say a vendor is coming in. What would you ask to actually assess what do we need to do, right? So let's say a SaaS solution is coming in and they need to connect to us through API.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to ask them? Like in terms of third party, we can't keep changing the questionnaire again and again because either we are resource constrained or time constrained. And then after we get the information, the tiering become another issue. So are you going to tier it as a high vendor? Because some companies they say confidentiality is important to them, some say availability is important to them, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
say both are important to them. So it becomes very tricky. Let's say we're not sending confidential data, but it's still critical to the business in terms of availability. Are you gonna raise it as a high vendor, a high critical, or a high medium? It
Mm-hmm.
becomes very tricky. And that's where I think management has to understand what's your risk appetite and risk tolerance. Yeah.
Yeah, I like you said, when I work for mature companies, they understand that. But if you're at a medium company, sometimes, like you said, and trying to convey that is can be super hard. Right? So um I think, like you
Yeah.
said, I think GRC has a lot on its plates because I guess you got to kind of coach people up to kind of help them understand that. So, but like you said, if you resource constraint and time constraint, like you said,
I think at the
it's a
end of
hard
the
thing.
day, it has to come to the leadership as well, right?
Oh,
So
100%. 100%.
I can do my assessment and then give it to the leader. And then the leader goes like, no, no, no. I think this should be critical. I'm not going to challenge him. Maybe I'm
Oh,
going to challenge him like in the background, but I'm not going to challenge him like in a public meeting, right?
oh
He's
no,
still
no,
my manager.
no, no, 100%. No, I would never do that. And to me, I'm okay if they go from medium to critical, I'm cool with that. More security
Yeah.
never hurts me, but I get more worried when they lower it. Go ahead on that, man.
Yeah. No, but I'll say one thing for all the audience that you have is that there's a limit on what you can do, right? You can give your best, but don't fight, don't argue.
Oh, fine.
You can give your points,
Hmm.
right? You can try to make an impact on the business, but at the end of the day, you did your assessment, but you can't challenge the upper governance that we have, right?
No,
So
100.
don't be sad. Don't beat yourself. You did your best. You're trying to keep the company safe. Whatever you learned is still valuable, and keep moving forward.
And just chime in on it. I always tell people it's their risk to take. They're the business. If I explain it to them, it's their risk to accept or reject. Now, if they're
Yeah.
doing something I don't maybe care for, if I think it's too risky, as long as I document it and they sign off on it, right? I can say the risk is high, and they say we still want to accept it. Okay, so, but I agree with you on that.
Yeah. But I do have a question actually
Yeah.
um, about the assessment. So as
Mhm.
I said, like in phase one, you send a questionnaire out where you try to assess if we're gonna send confidential data to third party.
Mhm.
After that's all settled up, do you actually do like an assessment on the integration part as well? like these APIs would be coming in, or these people would have administrative access to our system. Do you do that, or that's like a different domain?
If it's high and it's critical to the business, I will, because there's a fine line, and I got in a discussion. I'm going to interview a guy. If I delve down deep into that and I tell them what to do, I'm taking on a responsibility because I'm telling them how to do it. Right? I need to
Hmm.
give you the parameters and make sure you do that.
Hmm.
Right? When I was at DoD, because we were dealing internal with DoD and my boss didn't like the other agency, I went over there and did a full assessment. But commercially, I always got in trouble with that because I want to dig down. And one of my bosses, and I'm going to interview him, he goes, "You taking legal responsibility. If you tell them exactly what to do and you make them, you're legally responsible if they get that because you tell them exactly what to do." I was like, and I always struggle with that, to be honest. Um, so if it's just something mid-level, because if we tell them they have to be ISO 2701 or IRS plus 1075, there's parameters for them to get that certification right there we can review. So that's kind of how if there's SOC 2 type 2 and they're signed off, that's between them and their third party. If they get hacked, then I can sue them because they didn't do something right or they were negligent. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I deal. I ask certain questions, but once again, I always got in trouble because you can, at a certain level, if you dig down deep enough, you taking on legally responsibility for their app and their integration report. Now I might say, are you 50.40-2 encryption between those points? How are you doing? Are you OWASP, top 10, or do you have those mitigated? If you don't, can you send me the findings so I can look at it? Right. I'm not telling them what to do, right? I'm telling them you need to make sure the OWASP top 10 are taken care of. If not, can I see the findings of those? Then that can give me a risk of it. I'm not telling you what
Hmm.
to do, but I'm reviewing what you should have done.
Okay. Okay.
But I struggle with that, man. I feel like it probably took me a decade to kind of figure that out. Be kind of
Yeah.
comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And
But
two, it depends. Like leadership, like one of my leaderships, he was like, "Go over there," because it was in the same building, because it was out, but it was another agency. So he really wanted to own that. But once again, it was
yeah.
out under the DoD umbrella, right? Even though it was a separate agency.
Well, on in saying that, let's say that the company that you're working in right now, they're employing a contractor company to come and do some work. Do you do an assessment on that as well?
I have, yeah.
Now, how do you go about doing that in summary or brief words?
No, what I use, if it's a particular technology, like we said here, here's the sticks, fill them out and give them back to me. Then I can look through them and say, okay, these are the things the stick tells you to do, right? You couldn't cut on FIPS. You didn't use AES 256. You used 128 because it broke the app, right? 128 is a deviation. It's not at 256 where you're at, right? So now I can say, okay, is that finding? Is that good enough? Do I need you to put something in and get that fixed next year so I can make you send out, which is basically a questionnaire, right? These are the questionnaires.
Hmm.
Or I tell you, or you can scan for the stick, scan for 2701. Give me that scan back and it'll show me the gap in the findings, and I can just overlook that. Now, a lot of people don't want to
Nice.
give you that, right? Because you get to see all the warts, right? But I've asked for that before,
Yeah. I
right?
think what I'm struggling with right now is that uh, so my company is it's hiring a contractor company to come and upgrade our some of our infrastructure. So they're going to have access, like administrative access inside our network. They might use BYODs, maybe. I'm not sure yet. So do you do an assessment like that for third party, or that's something different?
No, I would do that too. Because a lot of times, if you come in my network, I want to tell you how you can come in. When you said
Okay.
BYOD, I almost fell off my chair. But like you said, that's the agreement you and your organization. To me, I very rarely do BYOD. Well, let me spin that back a little bit so we can
Hmm.
level set BYOD. When I worked for Door, we would send you a Door laptop. Now, if you're a professional company, you saying we're sticking our laptops at this level, and here are our findings. I can know you're doing the same things we're doing, right? So I mean, that's bring your own device, but that's a corporate device managed in a
mm,
professional way by a corporate organization. A lot of times when
mm.
I say BYOD, you just bringing your personal laptop from Dell and plugging it into our network, right? That's a different thing where if you're a corporate entity, and I know you have OUs and Windows, I can see your stigs. I can look at the stigging you have on this OU. So you're corporate. So I know at the exact you're at the same level of security, or even higher than us, right? So that's a BYOD to me is different than bringing your corporate
Yeah,
laptop.
yeah,
So right. So when you say BYOD, I think that's your personal advice. But a lot of times BYOD means you just not using our corporate
mm,
organization. You're using yours,
yeah,
right? But for me, if you're corporate and you're at a level and you're using OUs and you're stigging or schisming or whatever that is to harden it, and I can see that, right? Then I can review the security level you're at.
okay, okay, fair enough. Thank you so much. I really
So
appreciate it.
no, yeah, that's what I would do. Like, so part and two, I don't know. Part of NIST is how are you connecting into our network and how are you hardening before you connect in our network. And the zero trust, we should be able to check the health of your machine, know what OS, what version you're at, right? That's part of that zero trust before you hook into our
Mm,
network.
mm,
Then you as a third party, we're talking about RFP before you bid on our work. That's part of the questions you're asking. What's your corporate hardening? What's your corporate level? Are you letting people use their personal device on your laptop? If you say, yeah, we ain't hiring you, no, that's a joke. But that's part of the kind of questionnaire, and I'm doing a video on that. AWS is cool because AWS inside their service, they have a security question AWS is setting up. So if you're in their marketplace, because like each company sending you questions and you get 400 questions, 200, you don't have that manpower. So AWS is trying to smooth it out and says, this is what you do in our before you come in our marketplace. And our security team is going to validate 98% of
yeah,
that before you let in our marketplace. So and two is you can add questions to their marketplace
mm,
in the future. And you get to ask them if it's DoD, ISO. So because everybody's tired of these questionnaires. So AWS said if you come in our marketplace, we have a professional organization that's going to do that for you.
oh, okay.
Then two is, and I'm gonna do a video. You can download their redacted answers, before you reach out to them and before you buy them. If you buy them, and you like um, Ty said, once you buy them, you get an end user license, then you can get more information non-redacted. So I'm gonna kind of go over a video because I thought that was interesting that AWS is trying to get in the middle of that, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
So and interesting. So but go ahead and chime in on that, Mimi, if you had anything else on
No,
that.
that's what I was saying, right? We can't keep changing questionnaire for each and everything. It becomes really, really hard. Uh, and
Mm-hmm.
it becomes really interesting on like what to ask because a lot of the times
Yeah.
things are not similar, right? You already said
Oh,
sometimes it's an API integration. Sometimes we are just sending an encrypted file, or we are
yeah.
not sending an encrypted file. That's funny as well. Yeah.
That's true.
Sometimes
But
they need access to our system. Sometimes they don't. So it becomes tricky.
and it's weird because now the big guys, if you're not spending a certain amount of money, they're not going to answer your questionnaire.
Oh, of course.
Like AWS, if you ain't spent, I think it was 5 million or 3 million, they're not answering your
Yeah.
questions. You got to go through there, click you through and pound sand,
Yeah.
right? I think ServiceNow is like that. I think Oracle's like that.
Yeah.
That's cool thing with this RFP we're looking at. I think it was a $50 million RFP over I think 5 or 7 years. So they answered any questions we wanted. So any question they were ready to answer. They were answering before we hit the send button. They were
Yeah.
replying, right? Because that's a big money contract, right? That was kind of cool.
How long does it
But when you're a little guy, like
how long does it
they just said
typically
pound
take
sand.
you to do an assessment?
It's funny. I did one from Study GRC for Chris Whitlock for Trello. He did a Trello board, and shout out to Steph. She did a bit something. But I've been doing this for 20 years. Depending on the complexity and medium size, I could do it in a couple
Okay.
hours. But I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? There's big things I look for. Breach notification is real
Yeah.
big, especially in the Fed
Yeah.
space. Um, FIPS 140-2. Most smaller companies can't do that level of encryption because it costs $100K to get it certified. Um, zero trust. Most people can do zero trust. So there's but the cool thing is the Fed, you dealing with big companies, so they're gonna have the minor stuff. Now their policy is gonna be good, their procedures is gonna be good. They're already doing DR, they already got COOP because they bid on federal work, right? So it's complex, but they usually have that. I call it the small stuff. Because if you're dealing with the oracles, the Splunks, they deal federal. So that low level hanging fruit, they got that knocked out the park. They do that in their sleep.
Yeah.
So then I can drill on once again. FIPS, breach notification,
Encryption.
encryption between you and the logging. That's a little Splunk. All those, that's a little different. And if you're in AWS or Azure, all of their stuff actually you connect to the database from the internet. You can configure it to do internal to stay in your internal tenant. That special configuration that costs money. Do they have? It's called private link in AWS. Do they have private link stuff configured so your traffic never goes out to the internet? It stays in your tenant.
Yeah.
Right. This special configuration. So that's the kind of questions I usually ask them. But once again, I did Trello for Chris, and I found it probably in 15 minutes where it says, if you use our product, you give us worldwide rights to use AI to train off your data. Like, yeah, we can't do that. We can't do that. And I was doing something for Steph inside GRC inside their Discord, and they had the same thing in there. So I'm like, if you use our product, we can use your data to train, and you give us world rights to use. I think that's the default template now.
Yeah.
If you clicking through, so you stuff like that, I just know kind of to look for. Then two, if you're a bigger client, you can usually opt out, or you can carve out is the legal term, so they wouldn't do that. But once again, I've been doing this for 20 years. But those are the bigger things that I look for in there. But to do a regular risk assessment, small minor company, I could probably do that in a couple hours. Because until I talk about, I got keyword searches. I'm looking up certain probably 10 or 11 keywords that's always going to cause me problems. SSP, disaster recovery is kind of weird. A lot of people aren't doing it, or they want to charge you extra. Or between the two things, it's not encrypted. I see that a lot. So I look for DR. Once again, breach notification. Fed wants you to do 24 hours or less. If you see something, you got to let them know. Most businesses want to do 72 hours. So that's in violation of FedRAMP and NIST. So those are type of those really aren't showstoppers.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it. But like I said, if you had any more specific questions, once again, I've been doing this forever. So, and that's one of my superpowers. I can sit down in 4 hours, read 1,000 pages, and most people never do that. Seriously, I probably have 5 vendors, and what I do, so people know, I put the page number where I found it, and I have 5 vendors says nobody ever reads it that far. So, and I think they do that on purpose, to be honest. They try to overwhelm you with pages.
Yeah. No, I think so. Thank you so much. I'll catch up with you.
Welcome.
I've sent you a message on Discord as well, so we'll catch up probably.
You want to meet up later?
Hopefully, yeah, if you have time.
Yeah, I'll ping you something. Sometime I wake up, we on different times, but we can definitely make
no
that
problem.
work.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome, man. My buddy, he's from another continent. Thanks for joining us. My father, GMR. What's going on? Is your microphone working?
I don't know. You tell me.
You crystal clear, man. What can I do for
gosh.
you? Sorry to put you on hold. Ben took it over from Australia.
No, it's cool. It's funny. You're obviously, I was pushing. It's like, hey, do this earlier, and I find out I'm just as tired earlier, and and I'm coming through the door, and I'm nervous. It's like oh. Then I got to reboot the machine because I, have so many chats on it. I want to make sure everything's cleaned up. But yeah.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I'm having problems right now. I'm like, I should have rebooted before I went live.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
But chime in on the risk assessment. You got anything you want to add on that?
No, it's funny. The thing I've been kind of focusing on lately. Well, it's funny because I've been pestering for the last few months. It's like. It's one thing I've seen in the job market is, is salaries are really low, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
really competitive, right? And I started, talking to other people I've known, and it's like, hey, what's going on here, right? And but I've kind of seen it for the last few years. It's like so much work is being outsourced, and there's so
Mm-hmm.
many H-1B visa people. We love our citizens, etc., but not at the expense of them taking other people taking our tech jobs, and especially I'm a retired veteran, etc.
Facts.
So I've been writing Ted Cruz, my senator and the White House, and finally they came out with this today, where they said, hey, we're going to start,
Mm-hmm.
there's just too many abuses in this, right? And not just tech workers, but all workers. So that was really satisfying to see. I'm not sure how well it's going to play out, though. But the other thing I was looking at was, it's getting a couple of my friends. They were the engineering architect, VCISO types, and they've been more involved with GRC, just because, like I think I mentioned, the other time, it's the people that did GRC and auditing and stuff just tended to be a little bit more mature, a little long in the
Facts.
tooth, and they're kind of involved with that now. So one of my friends, he got the GRCP from, I think, OSEG or whatever, the people that coined the term GRC. And I said, I've got a discussion, later this week to talk to him. And it's like, well, nobody gets that certification. What's your business objective? Is it making you money? Those types of
Facts.
questions. So I'm going to speak to him later this week. But then I start dealing with GRC and a lot of my friends. It's like, what does GRC mean to you, right? And no matter who you ask, it's all over the
Mm-hmm.
place,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I start, for me, it's like a same background as you from the military. We think of, NIST, CSF, we think 800-53, and then whatever environment, if you're dealing with banking, FFIC, well, whatever the case, right? So at least GRC, it means something. But when you get in there, it's like the redheaded stepchild, exactly what it does, where it is, and then third party risk. Well, that's kind of a subset of GRC, but then since it deals with contracts and legal terms, it tends to be its own entity depending on how large the organization is. And then when you deal with controls, well, controls is just a part of risk,
Mm-hmm.
just like you've got IT risk and enterprise risk. And then I realized it's like, oh, this framework for GRC is kind of getting dated. And then I start playing around, and I coined the term GRCC, which the other C's for controls dash TPRM. And that seems to be a framework I'm kind of going with right now. But dealing with those issues, and then I'm just really evaluating a lot of different GRC tools. What their capabilities, etc., are. I've got a partner relationship agreement with the DRADA people, and but then I started looking at other stuff, and even the term third-party risk management, right? There's a lot of products, and it's like, well, you don't actually do like full scope TPRM. You actually got a product that does monitoring, like a black kite
Mm-hmm.
or a security scorecard, and yet they sell it, So the whole thing's kind of convoluted in the software arena, GRC right
Mm-hmm.
now. So I was hoping, and I was going to broach this with you, maybe we can just do like a GRC round, I don't know, a discussion, exactly what the direction is with GRC, and how's it progressing in the career thing. I know we've done some of these
Mm-hmm.
before, but yeah, just to throw that out
No, that's
there,
fair. You see the question on my screen?
I do.
What's your thoughts on that?
Should learn linear algebra to say code. Python. That's what.
I, I think
Python.
he's just talking in general. Do they need algebra to learn how to code? That-
Oh, heck
Well,
no. No, Python.
Brettsy disagreed with you. I'm gonna highlight Brettsy. I'm kind of with you, so man, I know I'm
What?
kind of in the middle. I know what Bretsy's saying. Shout out programmers learning program to solve business problems.
Yeah.
Business problem I often involve math.
Oh, It depends. I'll tell you someone who would vocally disagree with me, and that's when I was at Raytheon, and I had a bunch of guys who they were like mathematicians because they were writing algorithms, for like satellite imagery and stuff, right? So they're like, yeah, give me the math, we'll figure out the programming. So they were kind of, reverse. But from a business perspective, yeah, Python.
Like I got myself on mute. I'm kind of in the middle. I know what Bretsy's saying.
Yeah.
And programming from that perspective, if then it's kind of mad. But I always tell people and I programmed for 10 years and I tell people business problems often involves math. I worked at an insurance company with actuaries. The thing about it is I never had to figure out the formula. They gave me the formula that they want me to put in the program. I didn't have to figure out the mathematical formula. Now it helps me, to understand it, but I never figured out the formula. Anytime I did a business, they wrote the formula. When you put these fields in there, this is how you add them up, and this is how you want to have them calculated. I never had to come up with that mathematical formula.
Well, the one thing that, and I'm looking back when I was doing my MBA, it's, part of it is like, oh, okay, you had to take statistics, right? And the nice thing about it is we had evening classes, and I had a guy, I'm trying to remember his name. I think his last name was Gadiossi or something like that. He was an Italian guy, but he was one of the head mathematicians at the Census Bureau. And so he'd cut through all the stuff. He says, this is all bull crap. The book says this fine and dandy, but he'd tell you like it was. And he actually taught us a lot of business statistics, we would use in the real world. So I can see that too. In fact, it really helped me as far as, when you go in there and it's like, well, from a statistical standpoint, what am I trying to solve here? What's the problem? So I can see an argument for both. It just depends what you're doing. But strictly from an IT security standpoint, I really don't delve into that too much.
Me either. I'm right there. And I think security expert kind of chiming. I didn't know algebra or any kind of math before learning code. That said, I can understand how math can be an advantage, but I don't think it's a requirement. So I'm kind of in that ballpark. And two, like you said, depending on the type of domains you were programming. Like I did stuff where it was just you weren't hardly doing any math. Then I worked for an actuary insurance company and I did all math. But once again, they always gave me the problem and how they wanted me to calculate it. But
Well,
once again,
you worked as a programmer. See, it's I mostly did operations and
mhm.
networking, et cetera, then before moving into security. So to me, that was like, okay, understanding, how the network worked was a real benefit, to working security ops, et cetera. So, but as far as programming, I'd take like a course like, some old stuff, and it wasn't very fun back then, like COBOL or
Mhm.
RPG or
I've done
for,
both of those.
yeah, or
Fortran,
Fortran, there you
mhm.
go, Pascal.
I
And then
did that.
so I learned enough, and then it's like, okay, and then I go back to my regularly scheduled job and not really use it. And the stuff that was practical for me was writing like command list or,
Hmm.
some simple shell programming or
Corn
something,
shell.
to manipulate a process or, something like Python or something like that. But it wasn't, and plus when I did that stuff, it was all very boring. It's like, oh, okay, you got an inventory of tank parts and gun parts and
Mhm.
supply parts. So it wasn't like all the cool stuff now. And one of my I have a son-in-law, he's a developer and he does stuff, for all the app development and stuff and game programming. So it's like, well, that's kind of cool. If they had that, maybe I would have taken a different route some years ago.
No, I agree with you, but um, I so you don't need okay. Let's see what security. Good. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's me. Fortran, Pascal, Cobalt. I took the RPG. RPG was the original Fortran, Cobalt. RPG. It was four. I took Fortran, Cobalt, RPG, and there was one more. But yeah, I took a ton of Pascal.
RPG. There's something with a something too, and I'll even go way back. They used to have like green machines, and you did like Mark IV,
Hmm.
and there was Ada. You remember Ada? That was
I
big in
took
the
Ada.
government.
I
Yeah.
took Ada in college. That's how I got. Because Ada, I didn't know PL SQL inside of
Yeah.
Oracle was actually an Ada fork, and I didn't know it. I was like, man, I'm picking this up pretty easy. I never knew it was a fork of Ada that I studied in college. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I've taken Ada, in college because they wanted you to try to get government jobs. So that's interesting. Let's see. Put your questions in the chat. I'm gonna kind of wrap it up. I'm
Oh,
running
one
out
thing.
of gas. Go ahead. Go ahead.
One other thing I was doing, it's like, I kind of been out of financial services and banking for a little while, and I looked and I saw, oh, they sunsetted the FFIEC CAT, in August. It's like
Okay.
they're not using that anymore, and so it's like, what framework are you using, right? And it's like, well, just obviously you can use whatever control framework you want or risk management framework, but where they're not going to support the tools, so it's gone. And what they recommended using is the CISA CSET. And I said, oh, that's that really for the tool for the OTICS community. But so I actually did a few courses on that. They're free. They're freely available through CISA.
Mm-hmm.
The CISA, I don't know, you can Google it, the OTICS, and it's got the CSET tool and their framework stuff. So, but it's not called an assessment. It's called a CSET. What is it? Cybersecurity evaluation tool, and it's so heavily it mirrors the NIST CSF, identify, protect, defend, all that good stuff. And then it's got like 38 different families, I think, but it's all questionnaire based, right? And so you do an evaluation. It's not called an assessment. So like you're like me, right? You know enough about the environment where you just go in. It's like, okay, I'm everyone's role, right? But this has, okay, you got to go in and ask all the different, roles, but you've got formalized questionnaires. So, and then it's got a criteria where you rank it, from, your controls are not existent, progressing, partial, or, complete.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting. It follows it's a GRC tool, so to speak. Yeah.
No, I think, like you said, those are the ones that are trying to, I guess, fit in, figure out how to
Well,
evolve into something.
Well, that's what I'm looking at right now. It's the OTICS. It's because, well, where else is a good landing spot in a tough job market? I've never worked OTICS, pure, industrial control systems, but it's well, it seems like it's got a lot of openings right now, so I'm going to kind of pursue that area as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of which I'm trying to go back to the maybe old FISMA days. Like you said, I'm kind of
FISMA.
comfortable where I'm at, but like you said, this job market is it's crazy.
Yeah, you were talking. It's funny when you were talking about like contracts and RP, what it was, requests for proposals and all that
Hmm.
good stuff. It reminded me of my days as a good old Kotar in the government. So,
That's
yeehaw.
what. Yeah, that's kind of where I kind of got most of it from. Why can't it won't let me share? Okay, but let's see. Brexit. My first programming made me pay for terminal for shops was made in Pascal. Facts. Way too long. No, it was wordy back then. It's IT hardly use math. That's true. Yeah, that's weird. Now, so, but yeah, I think from a knowledge base, math is good, but specifically for programming, I don't. I don't think you need it as much because especially with Python, um, with that. I am running out of gas. Like you said, even though I started early, I am tired for some reason. Go ahead and chime in, Jim. I'm gonna shut it down. I'm running out of gas. I'm go ahead and let you get your last things in, whatever you want to say to the crowd.
Oh, I get nothing. I'm just going to relax and play with the dogs for a little bit. But I was going to post a link to this CISA OT ICS training. It's free training, and it kind of mirrors, with using the CSET tool, and the CSET tool is obvious free. So if people have time, I'll post a link out here. Go out and knock your socks off.
I got to send a couple emails out tonight. We're gonna shut it on down, and it's been kind of a long day. I thought today was Wednesday. Apologize for the yawn, but once again, I appreciate you, Brexy. Thanks for joining. Everybody have a good night. Let's start off with a good hump day. Jim, I'm gonna shut it on down. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it as always.
I appreciate you. Reach out to me if you need anything. I need to go check my email, professorblackops@gmail.com. Jim, put the link in the description. I'm out. Once again, reach out if you need me. I'm out. Everybody have a nice day or night. Happy hump day tomorrow.